Hello and welcome to this podcast. I'm here with David Skelton. How are you?
Okay, thank you.
Now, we're just taking a look into your background and what you do as an artist. Tell us a bit about your background.
The beginning started at Rochdale Art College. It's the beginning of my interest in doing art. Playing about with colour, shape, making images was good fun.
And how did you do that at the time?
How did I do it?
Yeah.
Well, I started with the surface pattern, which I enjoyed. I was watching all the people in the fine art department, and the pattern started going that way, rather than a simple repeating pattern. I would start working it towards art. Oh, that's what would happen. A pattern would become more than just a pattern. Actually, at that time, I was simply using gouache.
And explain to us what that is if people don't know.
Well, it's just an opaque paint where you get a nice solid colour. I went on to do the fine art course, or to do a foundation course, which actually involved lots of different media. But the painting and sculpture actually were the ones that I enjoyed most and occupied most of my time. I still enjoy moving around between media. So really just being creative, the enjoyment of making things kind of keeps me making things. And I have been doing that now for quite a long time, 30, 40 years.
Wow. So your process has gone many turns and evolved in lots of different ways. And obviously with different inventions and different things that have come into place that can help you. How is it different from when you first started to now, with the equipment that you use?
Well, I suppose it got different because I did focus at a certain point. I started putting most of my energy, or things started getting fine-tuned. A road did kind of appear that was quite easy to just travel along a road and develop a technique that was working.
You do a lot of digital work, don't you?
I do, but the reason I use that is just simply because previously I was drawing initially, then I was photocopying the drawings, manipulating the work to build up this kind of pattern-based art, kind of. The technique works. And when the computers came along, then colour, then I could play with... I had actually started playing with colour photographs, where I'd ask the developer to print me a photograph from both sides of the negative.
How does that work?
That gave me a mirror image.
Okay.
So if I went in and got 10 a photograph, and I said, do me 10 from each side of this negative, and then I'd play about mirroring so that the technique that I now use on the computer did start with cutting up colour photographs. So when the computer came along, when I got my first computer and Photoshop, that made that job so much easier. Although it wasn't so physical anymore, it allowed me to be more accurate and to develop things further.
I suppose it's still physical because you're still going out and finding inspiration, aren't you, and taking pictures of that. So I know one piece is from a carbonate, isn't it? So,
well, the development again is always surprises me because they move. I don't intentionally. I don't have a vision in mind as I start playing around. A piece of work will develop gradually and take on something that's, well, it just takes on, an image will take on a life of its own and develop as it seems to want to develop.
Do you love that about your work, that you have that, you don't know what it's going to end up like? Do you enjoy that?
I do enjoy that.
Yeah.
I do enjoy that because I suppose that's the magic of art, isn't it, really?
Not all artists would feel
well, for me,
the same.
No, I suppose it's just, it is the way I kind of have been working this way a long time. Having something, it's a bit like something appears out of, well, I can't really say nowhere because there's always that first little bit of information. But things grow. It's a bit like you've got a little seed. Like my initial image is a seed that I help it grow, and I'm only helping it grow. I could say that I'm watching it and helping, because some of these images are, I would consider quite far out.
Yeah.
You know, they have gone a long way from the initial shape and form that I found attractive. Far out in the sense that I suppose I kind of feel like art can, I suppose as you're creating, you are bringing something new into the world. Something new is appearing from somewhere. What is that art? You know, that question of what is art is a really great question. It's a fantastic question. Because it kind of is quite magical, and it's not of this realm that we're used to living in.
Yeah, I suppose with your work as well, it evolves and kind of, it has that evolution to it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Some of your work is quite far out, quite psychedelic, but also some of your work is quite classical. You can go from one side to the other of the scale of pattern.
Well, we're taking a lot of influences during our lives.
Yeah.
So I'm sure a lot of those influences have, you know, helped develop this. Joy, I love looking at what other people do. And I love art. I love seeing things brought into existence.
I mean, you've been working, you know, like you say, for a good amount of years on your collections and what you've created. And it's only now that you're putting it all together. I mean, you've done exhibitions before, and it's now that you can see everything and it's telling a story, and it's quite interesting. You talk about almost like a pattern-scape of your life, the work that you've done, and it's your journey, isn't it? So it's quite an interesting one.
Life is quite interesting. The stuff that isn't visible is just as interesting as the stuff that is visible. In fact, the stuff that isn't visible is probably more interesting to me. It is possible to bring that stuff that is invisible, it's possible to make it visible. I suppose that's what I hope I'm doing. I mean, whether it actually does exist anywhere, I don't know, but it feels like I'm bringing things from nothing into something.
You're making it present, yeah. It's your vision that's making it present. That's what you're selling, basically, with your collections and your artwork. And I mean, especially, you know, I was saying earlier to you that not only do I get visual pleasure from your work, but I also have an emotional response, which I never thought I would do. I never thought that would happen. The two are together, they're linked, it's not separate, it's there. So it's quite interesting that it actually does that, you know, it kind of gives you that as well.
Well, there was an intent when I started this. What I call this collection, I just give it the title, I call them Extraordinary Patterns. Which is, as going back, I see that as, you know, the pattern and the fine art are working together. And the intention, actually, when I started working with them, was to try, obviously, I suppose, if I'm talking about the moment and I'm talking about that magic stuff coming out, I would love that to happen with the work that I'm producing. If people can experience emotional or get feeling from what I'm doing, and the idea of mandala, I suppose to me it might not quite be true, but a mandala bring about an awareness.
But when you're talking about structure and pattern, the structure and pattern in life, isn't they? Plant formation and cell structure.
Yeah.
So it's kind of giving you something without you knowing it. Like you said before, it's the invisible to the visible.
Yeah.
We don't know what's inside our bodies, but they work and they're miracles. We're walking miracles. How things work, how things put together, you know, we basically cross our fingers and hope with the look, you know, that it's going to be all right and everything's going to be okay with how we're put together. And the world is put together by structures and patterns and formations. There is that kind of significant message in your work without saying it in an obvious way, without putting it in someone's head. It's there if you want to see it. That's quite powerful.
Could go back to the psychedelic influences, and they were very big influences.
So talk a little bit about that, you know, like do you think that's actually helped your work? Because obviously going back to LSD...
What it opened up was the moment. The moment then is like another dimension of time, where You know, you've got your future, the past, and you've got the present. And that present is every bit as deep as the past and the future. If you can find out how to get into the moment, if you can tune in the moment, then there's a whole wealth of, you know, what is it? The stuff that, it's all there. You know, you get beyond the past and the present. You don't, it's not mind anymore. It's wholeness. And that wholeness then is kind of complete. Clarity opens up a new dimension. It is, a photograph does take a moment, doesn't it? And then playing about with that, I could, you know, sometimes I look at it, well, I am kind of playing about with the moment.
Yeah.
In time.
Yeah.
And developing that moment. So the development actually can go on. In fact, these pieces of work have started off as little bits of information. And they can develop infinitely. I haven't, you know, like, obviously I can't develop an infinite piece of work, but these pieces of work could be wall size, which does come back to that intent. There was the idea of wallpapers to sink into, where you're kind of working halfway between wallpaper and art, because also that immersion is part of it as well. So with a big piece of work, I find it's easy to be immersed. If you're studying something in front of something that is that big, it can take your attention, which is important, I think. Capturing attention is really important, because attention is really the way to get into the moment.
I think that pretty much sums up your work. It's a real essence. It's an essence of something, isn't it? It's in a moment, and it's just in it. But it's also so many other things as well.
Well, I suppose you could say the decoration.
When you think about it, surface pattern and pattern is everywhere, isn't it?
Yeah.
It decorates our life.
Well, and you suppose you can again go like, if you look at the structure of the universe, you find pattern, don't you?
Yeah.
You find all this stuff swimming around, and things coming together, things being created, things dissolving. You know, there's lots of amazing stuff going on.
And are you excited about sharing your work on the website, having your shop, and then obviously leading into some exhibitions coming forward as well next year?
For one thing, I'd love to share what I've made, because I really enjoy it myself, and I'm sure it can be enjoyed.
Absolutely.
And just have a, you know, I look at one image at a time. So getting them all out, or getting a lot out, and doing an exhibition, I'm really looking forward to. Yes, well, I suppose the web does open up the possibility, really, of sharing it with. Potential is the whole world, isn't it? This stuff can be enjoyed, and I look forward to that happening.
If you would like to know more about David Skelton's creations, go to www.davidskeltonscreations.com. We look forward to seeing you there. Thank you for listening.